I've been all over the place with with throwing and just understanding what works, what doesn't work. I've trial and error. I played college baseball, I pitched, and I wish I knew what I know because it's changed a lot. When I was a kid, it's different, right? We played wiffle ball, we played backyard baseball all day, then we went to the field, so we threw all the time. But then we took 6 months off and various things. So everything I've kind of, in the research I've done, I think the biggest thing we can do right now in January is get their arms ramped up by throwing. And we'll go through a throwing program, I'll go through a band routine, and then we'll get into more pitching specific things. There's some things, I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is don't, like 8, 9, 10, probably the most, try not to get too mechanical on. Because I think we can really confuse them at 8, 9, and 10. The biggest thing we just talked with Ben is 8 to 13, the biggest thing we can do is help them throw with intent, learn how to throw with intent. I see a lot of people playing catch. I've been at Little League fields all the time and they just do this. And they just kind of just go through the motions in their throwing program. So one thing I've learned, and I don't know if you guys follow Driveline and some of those, and Tread Athletics, I've done a lot of research with them and talked to a lot of coaches, a lot of good programs. And one thing they try to do is build their arms slowly, but teach kids how to throw with intent. Okay, so because a track runner learns how to run fast by running fast. A pitcher or a position player learns how to throw by throwing hard with intent. So a lot of times we're so, and around here, we're so like, hey, we're gonna go play Little League and we're just gonna pitch 75 pitches, and then we're gonna come and we just pitch too much. We don't throw and get our arms ready by throwing and long toss. And that's what we did when we were young, is we didn't play competitively as much, but we trained the arm to throw. So I think the biggest thing, if you're teaching, we'll go through some things, is let your 8, 9, and 10-year-olds especially, like they're playing from shortstop, and translate that to the mound, okay, when they're pitching. Because we want a shortstop to field it quick with their feet, be athletic, and fire the ball, right? And that's what we need to do. So we need to train kids to not just play catch, but play catch with intent and kind of play catch with a purpose. So we'll talk a lot about that. Just a couple things that I jotted down. I think what we try to do is a 1-month on-ramp is what I try to do for the kids. Our 9 started like January 10th, I think. And so we're like 3 to 4 weeks where we're getting them throwing. They should be throwing, it's not happening, but they should be throwing like 2 to 3 times a week. But it's not 100% necessary, but I would encourage it, I do, just so they can get their arm ready. It's hard for them to go at 9 and 10 and go play catch, right? They're playing basketball and all that, so it's hard. But if they can get a ball up and just throw around, it's better for them to get their arm ready. And then once we get our arms ready by doing our throwing for about a month, then that translates to the mound, and then get on the mound. And we're about close to kind of I think we just started getting on the mound here, and we're starting with 20. So I would then ramp them up for pitch counts, and I try to ramp up I start with just 20 pitches in a bullpen, and I work just stretch position, just get them at 8, 9, and 10, get them clean, just linear, everything linear, and really try to get in their legs, and we'll talk about that in the throwing program. 11 to 13, I think it's super important, especially when you're high school too. The injuries happen at 13, 14 is when they start happening more, because their growth plates and their, Craig probably knows this a little bit just from his medical background, but it's more or less, I've seen a lot of injuries at 13, like broken growth plates, or like fracturing their growth plates, because a lot of the kids either they didn't from January, February, March, they didn't ramp up and they're throwing 75 miles an hour and it's a big torque on their arm, and they're not ready for that competitively. Okay. I also think we got to be cautious in Little League, just to be careful. Okay. Like if we're throwing 75, I see a lot of 75, you max them out on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they're throwing on the weekend. It's major leaguers don't do that. So I'd be careful. Okay, and I try to do it with my own kids. I said, I talked to the coach, and I know it's hard, but just maybe they get 20 pitches, and they get a bullpen or something, and they get that. Now, that's tough for a team, right, to say. But I just, as a parent, I said, you know, and Jeff was a coach. I was kind of communicating with him a little bit. He was our Little League coach at once. Just communicate that. Now, if you're not pitching on the weekend, it's different. But I see a lot of kids that are throwing a lot on Wednesday. Do you agree on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think the other thing is the basic thing, 8 to 13, I think it's really hard to throw strikes. So, like you're going to find your strike throwers, your guys that throw strikes, but find an opportunity for those guys you see that throw hard, but maybe can't find the zone. There's a lot of them, right? It's those guys working into their body, they haven't hit puberty yet, they haven't been there, and they can't find the zone, but then someday they're going to figure it out. So that was Caleb. Yeah, that was my son. He was putting in the broad side of the barn when he was 8 to 13. And then he got better as they go. But just work with those kids. Try to get them out there. I know it's going to be painful. They're going to walk the bases loaded. They're going to do this, but try to keep building their confidence and don't shut it down. Because at some point, that talent is going to win. I think the other thing before I get into the throwing program is a couple things. Pitching. Like I like to go fastball, learn a fastball first, 8, 9, and 10, right? You don't need anything else. Right? Just fastball and try to locate it. Try to really, you got some kids that can really hone in on spots. Most of the time it's tough, right? They're just trying to throw a strike. Now 11 to 13, everybody asks me when you should start throwing a curveball. And all the research I show that when I was a kid, they're like, don't throw curveballs, right? I started throwing one at 10. Which now all the research says a fastball probably can do more damage than a curveball if you throw it properly. So I started introducing a curveball at 11. You start spinning it. A good way to spin it, throw me a baseball, will you? Got one? A good way on a curveball to spin it is honestly bring them home, get on the seams, and just get them used to spinning a baseball at home. And this is on YouTube too. Just do that, and that kind of helps them get that feel. And then from that, I would take a tennis ball and I just throw, like I bounce one right in front of me and just get that spin right. So just start experimenting with that. Like, I don't think kids need one at 8, 9, and they shouldn't. But when you get to 11, 12, I see kids wait until 14, 15, and then, then they never can command a curveball. They don't know how to spin it. Okay, so I would definitely start introducing that at about 11. The other thing I hear a lot is icing arms. Like, we've never iced arms. I know it's some people do, but if the guy that founded Rice actually changed his perspective on it, he says get blood flow going with some things and dynamic. Like my son wears a floss band, it's called, and it just pumps. It gets the blood flowing. Okay, so because you want that blood, you want to get that gunk out of there, and just kind of, because you're damaging things when you throw, right? I don't even know the terminology, but just good warm up, good post recovery. There's some things we can talk about, but that's it. So let's talk about the throwing program. Let's go over here, and we'll go into what I kind of